folks, it's Mike Cruz here. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen this video where one of the candidates running to run France, she's not going to put on the headgear required by Islam in order to meet the folks that are running Lebanon. She went to go meet with that leader and decided not to put on the headgear, and it's caused a bit of a debate. But here's the thing. People get really mad in Western cultures, especially liberals, whenever we say we don't want to see women wear headgear, and we say that we don't want our women to have to wear headgear when meeting with certain people. They get so mad, but it's like, you can't force somebody to respect a tradition from another religion when they don't follow that religion. Okay, that'd be like saying every time a leader from another country came to the United States, if our leader was Christian, that would be like saying, oh, well, if you're from this other country, you have to do communion. You can't force people to do communion. Okay, I would be against forcing people to do that, and I love communion, I do it, but that would be like forcing somebody to do that, and you can't do that. Now, I know places like Lebanon, it used to be a Christian country, and I mention this often, probably every time I get on. How convenient of a country to go from being a Christian nation, slaughtering thousands and thousands of Christians, and then 40 years later trying to force somebody to wear headgear from a different country. Seriously though, wake up. I say this often, but wake up, because I feel like most people are asleep on this threat. They are sleeping, walking zombies. That's why I call the Democrats zombie-crats, because they are literally just going through their day asleep. The only thing that they are able to wake up on is when their emotions rile up. Oftentimes, their emotions, though they feel genuine to the Democrat, to the zombie-crat, a lot of times their emotions are placed into the wrong things. Oftentimes their emotions are based off of false narratives, false agendas, and false facts, because they watch fake news. There's even things on, and I like certain people on Fox, but there's some things on Fox that's fake news. We need to wake up to the fact that the media, the mainstream, their agenda, it doesn't matter whether it's right or left. Overall, their agenda is for control. Nothing else. But if we don't wake up to the threats of the world and stand up for our rights as well, we will fall behind. Anyways, here's the video. I'm sorry, folks, but that is the right way to do things. We should all have our places of worship, okay? But there's a difference between a religion and a cult. A religion is basically the ideology that you support to help you cope with the fact that we are not immortals. Okay, everybody has their own way of looking at life, their own philosophy on life, and they follow it with the belief that there is a point to all of this. There is a meaning to being birthed into this world and then leaving. Everybody has their own way of looking at what happens after we die. But the difference between that, that would be a religion, right? The difference between that and a cult is more caught up with controlling a group of people and radicalizing a group of people. Now, do people take religions and turn them into cults? You're damn right they do. We always hear about what the Crusades did, but the thing about the Crusades that nobody wants to talk about is that they weren't really Christian. Now, I can say this because it's logic. Anybody that actually has studied the Christian faith will know that in order to be a Christian, you must follow Christ. That's where the term Christian comes from. Now, the Crusades did something that separates them from Christianity. They followed the Old Testament, and they were very radical in following what the Old Testament taught, as in Deuteronomy and such and such. They were so radical that they thought that they had the justification to murder anybody that didn't follow the Christian faith. Now, the reason why I say they're not Christian is because Jesus, did he not draw a line in the sand for a prostitute? He drew a line in the sand saying, he who is without sin cast the first stone, and everybody dropped a stone, because every man and woman has sin. Whether you're a Christian or not, we all sin. We all sin. So the Crusades were not Christian. They were worse than the Pharisees in the Bible. The Pharisees were pretty bad, but they weren't going through slaughtering thousands and thousands of people, saying, you must believe this. Now, would people get stoned, much like the radical Islam factions of the world? Would the Pharisees have people stoned? Yes, they would. That's why Jesus had to draw the line in the sand. So the Crusades are not they are radicals, but they are not Christians. Is there such thing as radical Christianity? Yes, there are. There are radical Christians. There are people all over the place holding up signs saying, God hates faggots, and you're going to hell, and blah, blah, blah. I can't remember the exact verse in Timothy, but somewhere in Timothy, it definitely said that if you're very judgmental, if you're out to judge people, and you're judging others, you will be judged on your judgment day tenfold. So to all the radical Christians out there, quit telling people they're going to go to hell. Just don't be so vindictive about it. You can explain what it takes to get to heaven and the things that people do that might land them in hell, but don't go on the street corner yelling at people. That's not gonna help anybody, okay? I'm sorry. I know people do that all the time with this intent that they think they're doing God's work. Just remember that Jesus drew that line in the sand for a reason. I don't want my religion, the Christian faith, to become radical. I don't want anybody to have to become radical. But I didn't mean to go on this long-ass tangent, but I think France has it right. This whole thing with the headgear, you can't force women to wear something, okay? You can't. That's not equal. And any faith, whether it's a cult or an actual religion that believes that men and women are not equal, that is not compatible with Western civilization. Because Western civilization would dictate that men and women are equal as far as rights. Now, is our nature equal? No, our nature is not equal. Women whether they want to admit it or not, their nature is actually separate from the nature of what men typically would call their nature. So that's where the clashing comes, with, these feminazis out there. They want to freak out and say, oh, we're fighting for equality. No, feminists are not fighting for equality. You already have equality. Feminists are battling with the fact that men and women have a very different nature, and they confuse that with equality. But anyways, I'm hoping that this was enlightening to at least some of you. I'm hoping that some of you out there will also fight for the same principles that this woman has fought for. And I hope she wins her election. And I hope France wakes up. But it's interesting that she went to go see Lebanon. Because, like I said, in the 40s, or not 40s, but in the 70s, about 40 years ago, these people murdered thousands and thousands of Christians. It used to be a Christian nation. It's not anymore, ladies and gentlemen. So stand up or become extinct. The decision is yours.